Hello and welcome to the No State Project Revolution Show. I'm your host, Ben James. Thank you ever so much for listening in, everybody. Got a bit of a special show for tonight. We've got a couple of guests that have come on regarding a bureaucratic attack they're dealing with. They're due in court next week, and we're going to be bringing them on the show very soon, talking about their case. And I'm going to be doing my best to help them out, and hopefully this will be entertaining. Well, it's not entertaining. This is knowledge. This is information we're passing on. I've almost got it wrong now. I'm starting to sound like a corporate shill when I'm talking like that. But anyway, I say we're going to be, discussing their case, and hopefully the people listening to this will find this helpful and useful as well. So today is the 3rd of July, 2013, and it's we're through into the 7th month of the year now. Blimey, it goes quick, doesn't it? So, right, if you would like to call into the show, you can contact me on Autonomist123, and or you can call into, or you can look up Granada Steve via Skype, and we'll actually bring you into the call as well. If there's anything you'd like to share or anything you'd like any help with yourself, so you're welcome to call in anytime you like, and the show can run as long as we want till we get kicked out of the room, basically. So, or till we get kicked out of the venue. So we can stay here for as long as we like tonight. So I'll say, if you'd like to call in, that's the best way to contact us. So I'm going to bring in Ian and Liz to the show. So, and we'll get this started. So welcome to the show, Ian and Liz.
Hello.
So we were talking a little while, about a couple of hours ago, and or about an hour ago now, I suppose. And you told me a little bit about your case, but just for the listeners, without giving too many personal details away, just roughly give us a rough idea of what you're facing and what's going on.
2 years ago we were visited by the police because my husband and I, my husband's disabled and I'm not very well with a bad back and can't take any painkillers as such. And so we were busted for growing medical marijuana, and we were trying to fight it in court and went not guilty.
Right, okay. So that they actually forced their way into your home. Is that what they did, I believe?
Yes, they smashed the window. The bed was down actually because my husband sometimes sleeps downstairs because he can't get up the stairs sometimes because of his back. But as it happens, it was just down. They smashed the window, broke the ornaments. Even though the front door happened to be open and we were stuck talking to the policeman at the front door, we'd said, "Don't smash the window, the door's open," twice, and was ignored.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, to know that there's two people in there who obviously aren't violent. They're not, you're not hardened criminals as such, are you? So and they have to go behaving like that. It goes to show you how over the top these people react to you doing nothing more than growing a bit of medicinal plant for yourselves, and this is how these people behave. But so you're due at the Crown Court. You told me it's going to be a jury trial.
Yes, it is a jury trial.
Okay. So, you're going to be in front of the jury now. I don't know how familiar you are with Mark Stevens. I know we were talking before, but he has helped a lot of people out regarding jury trials, and usually they're to do with IRS claims. Where basically the tax man's coming after people. They usually put them up in front of the jury trial. But you actually requested this a jury trial yourself, from what you was telling me.
Yes, because we found out about cannabis when we left the court, because we've always thought that people in authority are there to tell us the truth, and we get guided by them. And we came home and I thought, well, I better look for some mitigation. So I looked online and came across a report, Cannabis, the Facts, Human Rights and the Law, and it basically told me that everything that cannabis is based on, the Misuse of Drugs Act, and regarding cannabis, it's based on lies, and it was only brought in on the back of cocaine and heroin back in the 20s by an Egyptian consulate. So I was pretty disturbed by this, because I really truly thought somebody must have these psychological problems that they told us about, that we keep hearing on the media. And time and again, it proved that each of these articles only say may, could, maybe, more evidence needed. But then the report told us about cannabis in Costa Rica, ganja in Jamaica, and the Guardia report, which are 3 studies of groups of people, whole groups of people, where it showed that cannabis didn't do all the harm, psychological, amotivational, the fact that it causes you trouble, makes you want to commit crime, where in actual fact it's the prohibition that causes the crime in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, during Prohibition in America, when they were, it was booze, the big thing, wasn't it? More people died from drinking bootleg booze than they did of any other sort of thing that was basically killing people at the time, drug wise, all that. And it was literally because the people who were dealing in bootleg booze was a lot of the time putting poison in the bottles. It didn't contain alcohol; it contained all sorts of other nasties, and that was what was killing people, or it was a stronger strength form out. It was almost pure alcohol, and that was killing a lot of people.
Exactly.
You're right.
Exactly.
It's the prohibition itself that's actually that causes more harm than good, but they know this. But, yeah. So sorry, go on.
Well, we have the same problem with cannabis. It's been rolled in glass, rolled in sand. You don't know what they've actually done to it, the quality of it, and you don't know where you're going to get it from.
That's right.
So it's much safer doing it at home.
Exactly, yeah, to grow your own and use it have it for your own personal use. And as we were talking,
I couldn't afford to go out and buy it. It costs a fortune, where it shouldn't do, when it's a herb that you could just grow.
Exactly, yeah, it comes from Mother Nature. Exactly, it's perfectly natural, and it's not something artificial. And even the way that we use it isn't artificial. It's it's perfectly normal the way. I mean, it's got a million and one different uses, isn't it? In terms of the things they can use that plant for. And yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it's got some fantastic medicinal qualities to it, from what I've heard. I mean, I've not, apart from maybe being around people who've smoked it, I've never touched it myself, and for the only reason is I just don't smoke. I never did take up smoking myself, so I've not used it. So it's not it's not been something I've jumped on board with. But I mean, I don't begrudge anybody using it or taking it, so long as they're not forcing it on anybody else. And when my friends who I used to drink with many years ago, they took it all the time, and I never batted an eyelid. It was never a problem for me then. It certainly isn't a problem for me now, knowing what I know. So that's the thing. So what if you're stuck into your case then? So, as I was explaining to you earlier, you obviously realise, from what I was telling you now, you realise that the fact is that regardless of what they're accusing you of, they have to bring what's called a valid charge against you, or what's called a specific cause of action. And this involves the violation of a legal right, breach of a legal duty, which, the breach of a legal duty, which then violates somebody's rights, which will result in causation will be damage. And so when you said you was looking through the paperwork earlier, you couldn't see that. The only element that you could see out of all of those was the alleged breach of a legal duty, where they don't actually state it as that, but they do state that it's section some and so of whatever act they want to throw at you.
Yes.
So it's a matter of, obviously, there aren't any other elements from what you've read yourself. There's nothing else in there where they're accusing you of violating anybody's rights or causing any damage to anyone. Is that right?
I totally agree with that, because we haven't caused anybody any harm, and we've only had the harm committed against us, actually.
That's right, yeah. So, I mean, and like we were talking about before, this is how they claim they have to bring a valid claim against you. So it's essentially there does have to be a victim, and they claim it's a crime. So it's a crime against all society. So this apparently is everybody, including that judge sitting in front of you when you're in the court. So apparently they're meant to be independent and impartial, aren't they? And yet, because it's a crime, apparently whoever that's going to be, man or woman, they're one of your victims. Do you still think they're going to be impartial?
No.
Yeah, so I mean that's, and I think bring the issue up. But when you think about it, that is what you're up against. That includes the jury against you. The jury are meant to be your victims, according to them. So do you think you're going to get a fair jury, an impartial jury, if that's how it's meant to work? Well, obviously not. You know, common sense dictates. Obviously not. So the point, I mean, as I've been explaining to you now, I mean, hopefully you understand how it's meant to work now and the approach we use questioning wise. But is there anything you want to ask me regarding anything you're not sure of?
Well, it's there's quite a lot of it, but it's all common sense, and it's down to common sense. And as long as we realise that, we should be getting along there. I think personally. At the end of the day, we've not caused anybody any harm or loss, and we're going to. What am I guilty of? You know, what does it make me guilty of? What have I done?
Exactly, that's it, and that's what you have to stick to. And they'll say, well, breaching the statute. So you're telling me that breaching the statute makes me guilty of breaching the statute? That's called circular logic. So, I mean, what we look into, I mean, on my website, if you look at it, I think I gave you a link to it earlier. There's a page on there now called the Trivium Mean, or the Trivium, and it goes into a lot of this regarding critical and logical thinking, how you go about looking at this. And there's one particular site that's called logicalfallacies.com.
Right.
And if you look at that, it's got some videos on there where you can watch them, and they start to point out. They use little speech bubbles and icons and symbols on the videos. They point out when they're talking, they're giving over what's called logical fallacies. It means they're talking complete nonsense. They're not telling you the truth.
Yeah.
It's a logical fallacy. It's something that logically doesn't make sense, or it lacks any facts or evidence behind it.
Yeah.
There's a video on there of Barack Obama. It's given a talk back when Osama bin Laden was allegedly taken down. And it's a 20-minute talk, and there's about 87 logical fallacies that they point out in that one speech alone. 87.
Yeah.
So that's what you can expect when you're spending half an hour or an hour in front of a judge when they start coming out with logical fallacies. So what you're doing is you're learning how to spot that. That's where the critical thinking skills come in. You start to spot what a logical fallacy is. And the most important one's going to be, in your case, to understand is the circular logic fallacy. And that's going to be the one where they say, well, the law applies because the law says so. If you put it into a different context, it's the way to understand it. Just put it into a different context. If somebody slapped a Bible down in front of you and said that Bible applies to you, and you said, oh yeah, I'm based on what facts? And they said, well, there's the Bible, it says so. Would you accept that?
No.
Well, obviously not. So why would you accept it when somebody says, well, the law applies to you because the law says so?
Because that's somebody's opinion, isn't it?
Exactly, that's it. So it's just seeing it from a different perspective. It doesn't matter what issue somebody's bringing up with you. Do they have the facts to prove it applies? Do they have the facts to prove it? Does it have any? Can you get your teeth into it? Is there anything behind it to prove that it's? Is there an objective standard there? Now, one question I brought up. I'll send you a copy of this. Question that I brought up a little while back that I thought up the other day that I brought on the. Let me look this up. Brought up on the Skype groups before, and let me just find it. I'll read this out to you and see what you think. Right, it's called the objective standard. Now, an objective standard basically means it's not biased, not judgmental, it's not subject to opinion. So it's not subjective. It's a simple statement of observational facts. That's what subjective means. Objective means. Subjective is based on opinion. or it's subject to bias. So you want an objective standard when you go into court in terms of them being able to prove their case. So here's the question that I came up with the other day. It states, you can ask this at a court when you're in there, does this court hold an objective standard of truth? Now, they hate that question, but usually they'll say, yeah, of course we do. So then I'd say to them, right, okay, so you're going to want a substantive yes or no to that. So don't get away with, well, of course we do and all that. Just give me a yes or no. That's all I want. So then I'd say, right, so are you of the same expectation as I am, that notwithstanding, that means in spite of whatever the burden of proof is, be it civil or criminal, notwithstanding the burden of proof, the claimant has to prove their case beyond all contradiction. Yeah?
Right, yeah.
So if they say no,
yep.
then it's so let me understand you correctly. You're saying that there's no standard of truth here. There's going to be no standard of evidence. Right. So what are they going to say to that? Well, of course there's a standard. It's beyond reasonable doubt, or balance of probabilities in civil. In your case, it's going to be beyond reasonable doubt. Okay, so you've set a standard, but that standard has to be an objective one. That means that you should be expecting, and so should they, that it should be proven beyond all contradiction. What you've done there is by setting that standard of beyond all contradiction, it doesn't matter what the standard of proof is, because what you've done is you set the bar to the absolutely highest logical and rational standard you can.
Yeah.
Because what it means is they have to be absolutely specific, absolutely precise in terms of bringing those facts forward and proving them to you. And a fact is nothing more than an identifiable and measured body of knowledge that is non-contradictory.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what that means is when they're saying to you, well, the law applies because the law says so, they're not being specific. They have to prove, you have to know specifically what you're actually dealing with. We went through this before. It's the law factually, specifically, you can factually identify it as an opinion. The people who that is, you can identify them as legislators, women who wear funny dresses and wigs called, actually called lawyers, but they call themselves judges as well, some of them.
Yeah.
And that's factually what you're dealing with. So you see what I mean? But it's an identified body of knowledge. That's actually what a fact is. It's something that you can specifically home in on and fully identify it without contradicting it. Nobody could contradict the law is nothing else, something other than an opinion.
Yeah.
Can they? Logically and rationally speaking. So that's what I mean by that objective standard and being able to prove it beyond all contradiction. So I hope that makes sense.
It will do that bit will do when it sinks in.
Yeah.
When it sinks in. What I am interested in actually is you mentioned to me that I thought people would like to know about is you did say about the cause of action, a specific cause of action. Could you explain the elements a bit better? The fact that there's 3 elements.
Yeah. Well, the 3 elements are, the first element is the breach of legal duty. Now that's the statute, because the statute, the legal opinion is that piece of paper somehow created a legal obligation or a legal duty on you, either to do or not to do something. Usually it's not to do something. So that's factually what you're dealing with there. That's the obligation they're claiming you breached, i.e. the statute. So they're claiming, So then if you breach that obligation or duty, it's got to result, the causation, because this is all about causation, has to cause the violation of a legal right. Or by doing that, you create the violation of a legal right, resulting in damage.
Yeah.
So the next element is the violation of a legal right. Now, courts are only interested in legal rights because, as we was talking about earlier, rights don't really exist. They're subjective. They only exist in your head. So a legal right is nothing more than a legal opinion again. So that's what allegedly you violated. That's what you've somehow began to cause harm to, which is resulting in which has resulted in damage. So then, like I say, and that's the next element. It's the actual damage. What exactly is the harm that you've done there? In your case, you're being accused of, just growing some plants in your own home, for your own use. So where is the damage? Where is the harm to anyone? The truth of the matter is, the only damage that you've done only exists in the mind of the people who are bringing this claim against you. There is no real victim. Nobody's been injured. And if I claim that the public or society has been the victim, well, that's an abstract. It's a body politic. It only exists again in somebody's mind. There are no facts proving you've actually harmed anybody.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what you're dealing with. So I'll say the elements. Those are the three minimum elements they have to claim to bring a valid cause of action against you, or a charge, as they call it in this case. And the other elements that come into play as well are the applicability of the law, jurisdiction. The other thing, well, they're the two. They're probably the two main ones you have to latch on to. There's other elements as well, and I'll probably come around to them in a minute. The applicability of the law then becomes an element because they're accusing you of breaching it. They have to now prove beyond all reasonable doubt that it applies to you. So that's something that proved beyond all contradiction as well. If that's a standard you're going to set for them. So that means that when you cross-examine a police officer, he should have to know, he should have first-hand personal knowledge of how the act actually applies to you. There's no point in just saying it applies to you because we say so, or he said so. He has to understand factually how it actually applies. And as we were saying before, they're not going to want to admit it's nothing more than somebody else's opinion, and it's being forced against you using coercion and violence.
Yeah. So, would the judge possibly say that the police? Why would the police have to know why it applies? They're just doing their job.
Well, that's like saying to somebody, if they're going to accuse you of something, isn't it common sense that they should understand what they're accusing you of?
Yeah.
It's like calling somebody a tennis player when they haven't got a clue what a tennis court looks like or what it really is. I don't even know what a bat is. How can you call somebody a tennis player and don't even know what one is?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? But that's the situation they're putting you in.
And we forget that it's common sense.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. It's like what we were saying. This is what they've stolen from us. This is what they've taken out of the school curriculum. They've dumbed us down as best they can. And they've done a pretty good job of it, for the most part. The majority of people don't think or look at the world this way. But that is what it really is. And common sense is something that's inherently inbuilt into us anyway. It's hardwired in our brain. It just gets suppressed by all this junk that fills ahead that kind of puts that to sleep. If you do show some common sense or try to exercise it, you soon get shot down, don't you? Mm-hmm. Especially if you try to exercise that in school.
Definitely. I'm glad I home educated my child.
Yeah. Oh, really? That's a good thing. I mean, that trivial stuff would be a good thing to look at.
Mm.
So, because that's what they took out of school curriculum back in the mid 1800s. So, but I can give you more info on that later, and you might find it interesting. So, is there anything you'd want to? Is there anything you can think of that you want to ask me now that you're not too sure about?
Yes, this when I what have I? Look, you mentioned something about public and state cause, and I didn't quite get that.
Right. So, well, what it is there's some case law from Ireland. I'll read this out if I can dig it out. And they brought up the issue of if in a criminal case, give me a sec, I'll just find it. In a criminal case, it has to be shown whether the claim is against or the alleged injured party is the state or the public. And damn it, I can't find it. Now I'm looking for it.
Typical.
Give me a second. Cause and dealing, prosecution, prosecutions, yada yada yada. That has disappeared on me. Oh, damn it, I can't find it now after all that. Well, basically, what it is a case from Ireland. I will find it and I'll get it sent over to you. But there's a case from Ireland basically stated that, in any criminal proceeding, it has to be established whether the claimant is the public or the state. But the fact is that the two of them are both body politics. They're both still fiction, so it doesn't matter either way. But the point you want to raise is that they're claiming that the Crown is the alleged claimant in this matter. So you want to establish, well, what factually is the Crown? Who is it? And where are the facts to prove that the Crown has actually brought the claim against you? Because, again, it's all just opinion. There's no facts behind it.
Yeah.
But, if they say, well, it's the public, well, go on and prove it. Show me facts proving it's the public bringing the claim against me.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, they're both fiction. None of them are real. And I can't actually prove that exists. It's people that brought the claim against you, not these things called the Crown or the public or society.
It's the people, the policemen that charged me with the offence in the first place.
Exactly, yeah. So it's about properly identifying who and what you're really dealing with.
Yeah.
So they come out with these abstractions, these fictions, and claim, well, this is what's bringing the claim against you. But the truth of the matter is that's complete nonsense. And if you challenge them on it, that's basically what you bring out.
So the police are uneducated as well, then?
Exactly, yeah. They don't want the police to know this stuff, because then the police would be in a situation where, how the hell are we ever going to bring a claim against somebody? This is the flaw in their system. This is the sticking point in their system. They can't, if they use their own rules and regulations and actually follow them to the letter and did it properly, and actually try to bring a proper claim against somebody and used facts only, nothing else, it would all fall apart. They could never get away with it.
Yeah. No, not using the law, just using the facts. And
just using the facts, yeah. Because one of the
and not arguing as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the points you want to raise is, which we'll go for. I mean, I'll say, well, can you get prepared for this? One of the points you want to raise is, can they bring a claim against you? Can they prove that you did something wrong without referring to the act? Because that is all they're going to be able to do. They're just going to have to keep saying the only thing that made it a crime is that act, that bit of paper.
Yeah. And
they're not going to be able to prove that you've actually committed any type of crime against anybody absent that piece of paper. So it's simply it's only by reason that bit of paper exists that they're bringing the claim against you. Nothing else. Now, this was a murder, and they never had a bit of paper claiming, murder's illegal. Or would that mean that they could never would that mean they could never claim that you committed a crime? Well, obviously not. You still committed a crime. It's irrelevant whether a piece of paper exists saying whether it's a crime or not.
Because you've caused somebody harm and loss.
Exactly, yeah. So there you go. You can actually prove that there's a real victim. So you've got a real crime there. But when it comes to these types of crimes, they're what are referred to as malum prohibitum crimes. They only exist by virtue of somebody writing it down on a bit of paper declaring it a crime.
Yeah.
It's just somebody's will. It's just somebody else's will and opinion. That's it. That's what makes it a crime. It's not a crime in and of itself, such as murder, theft, fraud, anything like that. Those are obvious crimes, and it doesn't require a bit of paper to say so. So, I'll say, but if they're going to bring that bit of paper against you and claim that's why you've committed an offence, well, then they better damn well know what they're really talking about. They better know what factually that bit of paper really is, which is all it is. And they should understand how allegedly this alleged obligation is created. And here's the thing about this alleged obligation that's created under this bit of paper. of it this way: if somebody stuck a gun at your head and said, "Sign this contract, or else," would that make it a valid contract, a valid obligation? Well, obviously not.
No, you're doing it against your will, aren't you?
Yeah. So how can an alleged legal duty or obligation be created based on nothing more than a group of people writing it down on a bit of paper and enforcing it against you? How can that make it valid?
It shouldn't make it valid, especially when we feel the harm's been committed against us when we were doing no harm to anybody.
Exactly, that's it. And that's the sticking point in their system. That's what totally blows the entire legal system out of the water and proves that there's nothing legitimate or valid about it. You cannot claim people have legal obligations, and the only way you can bind somebody to that legal obligation is to stick a gun to their head.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't do it with a contract. You couldn't claim that a contract would be valid if someone treated you that way, but that's exactly what they do with a statute. And they claim that there's an obligation, a duty there on you to do or not to do something.
So if you signed in the police station, it's not a contract because you've done it under duress.
That's right, yeah. I mean, did you actually write that down when you signed it?
No, not at the time, because I wasn't very well informed, because I still believe that people
that's okay. It's still
the people in power know better, I thought. I'm sorry.
Absolutely, yeah, but it's an issue you can bring up when you're in court as well and say, it was under duress, I was frightened.
My husband signed, but he did actually say in the police station that he didn't understand what he was there for in the first place.
Yeah.
And the police happened to leave that off the interview as well.
Oh yeah, you were saying something about the left minutes. They missed about 4 or 5 minutes after the original interview.
Yes, because they'd given my husband a high dose of dihydrocodone just before, which he'd asked for since 7 p.m. and this was 2:30 in the morning. Because if he can't smoke, then he needs to take tablets. And he usually has 60 milligram time release, and the doctor gave him 2 30 milligram full-on ones, and then they interviewed him 20 minutes later. So he said that he didn't understand what they were talking about, why prominent professors say that it's harmless, why aren't they following their advice? And no, he just wasn't happy with it.
They just said it's the law.
Do you know what? Based on that alone, they would probably have to drop the case.
Really? I did type up the first 4 minutes because it said you had to do it yourself, and I sent it in as evidence.
Yeah, because if you're going to charge somebody, if you're going to bring a claim against them and you're interviewing them, you have to be 100% sure that who you're interviewing is in a fit state to understand what's going on and what they're saying.
Yeah, because he eventually just said, yeah, get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's according to their own rules and regulations. The same as you can't drag someone drunk out of their mind into a police station, charge them, read them their rights, throw them in a cell and say, there you go, we did it properly. You can't do that. The same as you can't arrest somebody, read them their rights with their arm twisted up the back when they're screaming and shouting in pain. You can't claim you read them their rights and they understood fully what was going on. That totally validates anything they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably based on... I mean, that's saying I want to concentrate a bit more on that as well. But just based on that alone, that is... They've breached every rule and regulation they're meant to follow there.
That's exactly what we thought. But when we ever talked to any solicitors at the very beginning when we did, they said that's irrelevant.
It's not. Oh, believe me, it's not. I mean, it's there's a book I've got to get my hands back on again. But if you can get this yourself, there's a book called Mr. Loophole. What was his name again? His name's Nick Freeman. He's a solicitor, and he talks about a lot of this regarding what the police can and can't do during interviews and when they arrest people and when they caution them, charge them, that sort of thing. And the police cock up like this all the time, and they make mistakes just like this all the time.
Yeah.
So that is huge for them to say, oh, it's irrelevant. Oh, it's not. You know.
And I have I remember back along. I can't find the paperwork at the minute. I remember even writing to the police to say it was unfair, and they said it was a fine treat. It was an okay treatment of him.
No, it's
because they made him stand outside the police station for 20 minutes, and he was on the verge of collapse. But you know how you try and stand proud He had his walking stick and tried to stand proud, but sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, he had a chair as soon as he got in. But
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll look into that again because I remember reading up on issues like this before, and just based on that alone, you could probably get this case dropped because the police failed to follow proper procedure in cautioning, charging, and actually giving the interview. He wasn't in a fit state to do it.
no,
So they can't use anything that you gave them as evidence against you, back against you.
no.
No, they had to call the police doctor out to me, and
Yeah.
the superintendent had to come down and see me.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, it all starts to mount up against them.
Oh, good.
I mean, you know,
I'm
well,
pleased about that because we've been very stressed for over 2 years now. It's been a long time.
Mm.
You would have thought they'd deal with it quicker, but because we went not guilty, they've stretched it out and out and out.
yeah. I mean, a lot of the time, the reason they do that is because they know they don't have a strong enough case, so they're just trying to wear you down. So by the time you get the call, you're in a position where you're just ready to throw the towel and say, all right, just find me and give me whatever you're gonna do, and leave me in peace, sort of thing. So sometimes that's why they do drag these things out as long as they do, because they don't have a strong enough case against you, and I think they know that.
I think
They're just waiting to see if you're going to pick up on their little mistakes and the things that they did that could warrant getting a case dropped.
we were threatened with 6 years, but with one judge, he started off really loud saying 6 years and then petered out going, but you basically couldn't hear him in the court because they talk so quietly between themselves.
Yeah.
And I felt at the time I felt subservient to them because I was still indoctrinated. I was a proper sheep.
Well, you're not now.
It says, the letter from the police when I wrote a note and complained about the officers conducting the warrant at the house and also complaining about Ian's treatment. And they were satisfied that the Police and Criminal Evidence Act was adhered to in respect to the provision of rights, entitlements and access to healthcare. As with all rights, sometimes there's a delay in delivery due to the healthcare provision covering more than one policing area and the need to travel between stations. Therefore, no further action will be taken in this matter either. That was the answer I got to that.
They've got no evidence and no way of knowing that he was in a fit state of mind at the time to understand what was being said to him. And the fact that they've lost that part of the interview, that they've done that, it sounds like they've done that on purpose because they know that based on that alone, any judge in their right mind will throw it out and have to say, yeah, you can't accept that. You know, you can't do that. You can't get away with treating someone like that. And that's something, and that is an issue you've got to bring up.
Well, I did bring it up, but I didn't know how to do it properly. I just complained.
Yeah.
A written complaint.
I'll have a chat with Paul later because I know Paul's got a copy of that book as well, and I'll have him read out some of the passages to me. But yeah, these issues are mentioned in that book that Nick Freeman brought up, and yeah, the police cock up like this all the time. I'll get the proper wording that you use to bring against them, and again, it's a big issue. It's a huge one by the sounds of it.
It really bothered me at the time, actually, because I don't want my husband being more poorly just because of this. So that's why he's not going anywhere without his wheelchair now. And they can't fit him in the Crown Court, so we've had to go to
Yeah, you were saying they wouldn't let him in the court before because of the wheelchair.
No, he was sat in the doorway at the Crown Court because it's only wheelchair accessible to the main seating area.
Right. That's diabolical, isn't it? The fact that they would jump all over any other company in this country where, if they didn't provide proper facilities, people who are in wheelchairs, they'd be fined and sued up to the eyeballs, and but they don't practice what they preach themselves. Yeah,
well, we are lucky. We've got quite a few supporters coming into the court for us.
Yeah,
and a couple of people that have offered to be witnesses. Somebody who's got multiple sclerosis and her husband, but she's got the aggressive form, so she's had it for 3 years and she's not going to be around for much longer.
Yeah, but well, it's good that you've got people coming to support you. That's what we need. We do need more of this with people fighting these types of cases. And yeah, like I say, we're sort out getting some supporters down from the NSB group as well. They'll
Oh,
down and help you out. And you got a couple of Mackenzie friends who are going to be helping you as well.
I have. I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah, so that'd be good. That'll help things along. And I mean, it's a bit difficult to go. I don't want to go back over and bore you with what we were talking about before because we had a lengthy conversation before. But I mean, I've sort of hopefully I've opened your eyes a bit now. You can understand a lot clearer now what it is you need to do and what this is really all about. What constitutes them bringing a proper claim against you and that.
Oh, you've been marvellous. You've really opened our eyes.
Yeah, we couldn't. You've made me understand, bring things together that I knew little bits about, but a little bit isn't enough. You needed somebody who knew it properly, rather than just bits and bobs from people or what I've gleaned, and I'm so appreciative.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad I've been able to help. And I mean, it's just a matter of, so once someone points out the obvious to you, just based on facts, based on logic, the rest becomes easy for you. You start to pick it apart, all of it, and it becomes easier for you to understand. And you can do it yourself. You just needed a little nudge in the right direction about how to focus your mind. How to start actually looking at this from a factual point of view. And that's how we challenge it. We just go after facts. We don't go using all these free man concepts and going into court and start arguing and all that. You don't. Our stance is you don't take a stance against them. Everything is a question, and you don't accuse them of anything. You don't. You don't give your own opinions on anything either. It doesn't matter what you believe the law is or how it should operate. Your opinions mean jack in their courts. It's only their opinions that matter as far as they're concerned. Yours don't mean anything. So that's why we take the stance we do. And it's like, if they want to behave that way, fine. But what we will do is we'll use their opinions back against them.
Yeah, and you've made me understand that.
Yeah. And that's why we use the case law we do. So the application that I'll be helping you with, the application to dismiss will be, it's got case law in there, but the reason you're using it is because these are the grounds that they claim a valid claim has to be brought against anybody. So it's got all the case law in there that explains it. It's got the case law in there that shows what justifies or what constitutes a justiciable cause of action. A justiciable case of controversy. And it states that it's a reminder that the courts are limited. The jurisdiction of courts are limited to justiciable claims. And if there isn't a justiciable claim, i.e. a proper controversy, that means somebody claiming a violation of a legal right. There isn't any.
Yeah,
so
it is.
That's what we mean by just a justiciable claim. So if that isn't there, the court doesn't have jurisdiction to hear the case. And I don't know if anyone's explained jurisdiction to you, but all jurisdiction actually means in reality is the ability to take violent control of somebody else's life and property.
No, I didn't know that was the reason.
That's the actual definition we stick with, because that's basically what it really means. But jurisdiction, according to them, the legal opinion is multi-layered. It can cover lots of different areas and lots of different things. But what it basically means is the jurisdiction that we're most concerned with is nothing more than the jurisdiction that they claim they have to hear the case, because you're meant to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, correct? So that means they can't presume jurisdiction to hold you against your will because you're presumed innocent. Yeah?
Right.
But they have jurisdiction to hear the case. So they can hear what the other side's got to say, and they can hear what you've got to say, but that's it. Until you've been proven guilty, then they can claim that they have the right to come or justify, taking control of you, physical control of you, or fining you and whatnot. So that's what I mean by jurisdiction. So in America, it's referred to as subject matter jurisdiction. It means the same thing here. It simply means just the ability to hear the case. And what it means is it's the venue it's in. It has to be brought to the proper forum. You can't take if you had a grievance with your neighbour, you couldn't go into your local burger bar and say, I want you to have a go at him. He's knocked over my fence and I want some money back. They'd turn around and say, sod off, we're a burger bar. We couldn't care less. Because you're not in the proper venue. So this is what they claim by, it has to be in a proper venue. It's nothing more than they claim, yeah, we can hear the case. But that's it. They can't claim nothing else. They can't claim jurisdiction. Told you all your property against your will, basically. So that's the jurisdiction where we're challenging. They don't have the jurisdiction to hear the case because there isn't a valid controversy before the court. They're not claiming violation of a legal right. There's no proof that the law's applicable, and there's no proof that there's been damage to anyone. If they're missing, the court can't even hear the case, but they always push on and act as if they can, regardless. But here's the thing: you always ask for facts proving they have jurisdiction. So you ask the court, is jurisdiction an element of the charge, the allegations? And they'll go, yeah. Okay, then it's great. So what facts has the prosecution given the court? Because all the burden is on the prosecution. What facts has the prosecution given the court to prove that you have jurisdiction?
Yeah.
And now what you've done is you've switched it from the court having to ask that question, or answer that question, to the prosecution having to answer that question. And do you think they've ever given any evidence, any facts to the court to prove they have jurisdiction?
Yeah.
No. They can't. They've not even folded your paperwork correctly, have they?
No, they haven't.
It doesn't have the elements in we were talking about before, because you read through it and you're not seeing them in there. Well, if you're not seeing them in there, and they claim they are, there is a valid charge there. Well, let them read it out to you and point out specifically, properly identify those elements.
Yeah.
And the only one they can identify in a roundabout way is the breach of legal duty. But they won't describe it as a legal duty. They'll just say you're in breach of that act. What factually is the act? See, I've had a building once. I said to them, "Does the act create a legal obligation on me?" And they said no.
Oh.
I said, "Well, how does it apply to me then?" I think in one case, I said to her, "Am I being accused of breaching a legal obligation or duty?" She said no. And I said, and I couldn't believe it. I stepped back and I went, "No." She went, "No." I said, Doesn't the Road Traffic Act create a legal obligation on me?" She said, "No, it doesn't." And she started screaming and shouting at me. And what I just asked was, or what she just admitted is that I couldn't have broken the law. Because that's how you break their law, by breaching a legal obligation, breaching a legal duty. That's how you broke it. And then the result is, the causation is the violation of a legal right and damage. But I had this clerk of a court screaming and shouting at me, basically, admitting in front of everybody I hadn't broken the law. She said I hadn't breached a legal duty. Yeah. So there you go. It's one thing saying to somebody you broke this act. It's another thing understanding what you're actually accusing them of.
Yeah.
So, and I'll say this is what you question. This is how you question the courts and the police officer. When you're in there. I mean, one of the questions you can ask the police officer is, we'll go through this. And don't worry if I'm throwing too much at you right now. But one of the questions I first asked when I always go into court, once I get cross-examined, I state, are you an expert in the interpretation and application of the Act? Whatever Act it is they're claiming to be bringing against. Are you an expert in its interpretation and application? That means, do you have facts? If you're an expert, it's above average knowledge.
Yeah.
So that means that they should have facts within their knowledge, personal first-hand knowledge, how that act applies and what it actually is. And sometimes they'll say yes, in which case, bang, they'll come in and tell me factually what the law is, tell me factually what that act is. Or if they say no, it's like, well, if you don't know what it is, how do you know I breached it? You're claiming I breached it, but if you don't know if you don't know factually what you're dealing with, how do you know I breached it? Don't tell me it's hearsay. And I think that's the bind you put them into. And like I say, it's 2 or 3 questions, you'll have them declared incompetent.
Brilliant.
So, I mean, and the differences between the American and the English stuff, if you like, is you'll hear the word cause of action used more, but just substitute the word cause of action for charge. Whenever you're dealing with criminal, just substitute the word for that, and it means exactly the same thing. Or in our case, it's actually referred to as a specific cause of action.
Specific cause of action or charge?
I always use it more in my paperwork now.
Mm-hmm. Do you use specific cause of action, or do you just use charge yourself?
Sorry? You could use charge, but it's always worth using that word cause of action, because then you're bringing into play the fact that there's elements there and they have to prove it. It's a cause of action. So what gave them cause to bring action against you?
Charges against me, and they've got to have 3, and they've only got the 1 element.
Yeah, well, they're stating 1. Yeah, there's no other elements in there.
Yeah.
It's funny that I always do that. Even my paperwork, when I got done for speeding, was missing that. I mean, I don't know if it's an issue of just bad administration, or they're just a bit lazy, but always seems to be the same whenever you look at this paperwork.
Or in actual fact, there's been no harm or loss to anybody.
Exactly, that's it. I mean, the term that gets used is damage. In America, it's injury, but under our system, they still use the old Latin phrase, which is called injuria et damnum. And it means injury and damage. And an injury is the violation of a legal right. It means exactly the same thing.
And that's on the criminal application to dismiss, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
You wrote that on there, didn't you?
Injuria et damnum, yeah. Injury and damage.
I didn't. I should have figured out what it said, but I didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, I can read. We'll talk through it later. As we go through this in the next few days, and I'll explain it to you. And it will make perfect sense.
Yeah.
And it does. It is a lot of this is just common sense, and there's no legalese or anything like that. You've got to learn. No fancy language, no tricky words or anything like that. It's just it is dead simple.
So what if they use tricky words with me?
What are you expecting? What would you?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, just if I didn't understand something they said, do I have the right to ask them to say that so I can understand it?
Just if they want to ask you questions, if they want to try and get you to incriminate yourself, it's like I said before. I'm sorry, I'm not here to answer to the merits of your case.
Yeah.
It's the prosecution's case being put on trial here, not me.
Yeah.
They're being put to the test, not me.
Yeah.
They've got the burden of proof. Yeah, not me. So if they try and catch you out, they try, and that's how you play it. You keep the burden back on them. If they try and trip you up and try and admit something. Say that's the way to go with it. I'm not here to answer to the merits of your case. I'm here to establish facts only. I'm not making legal arguments. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand any of that. I don't need to. All I need to establish are the facts. You don't need to be a lawyer to ask for facts, do you?
No, you don't.
There you go. Because you're a layman. That's the way you can look at it.
Yeah, wonderful.
See, but they look at a layman as somebody who's not well educated, not can't think critically. That's how they view a layman, as such.
Does barrister really mean to defend a dunce in old Latin?
It may well do. I've not come across that, but
I looked that up the other week. I've read it somewhere.
Yes, they view you as incompetent. Actually, there is a case from America. If I can find it, it's
Well, isn't incompetent a dunce, really?
Yeah, it's a case from America. Mark's quoted this before. I can't find it at the moment. But it was basically saying that anybody who's not a lawyer is considered incapable of defending themselves, even if they're innocent. They can still see based on the fact that they've got no understanding of what's going on, sort of thing. So even if it's a good or a bad claim being brought against them, they can still be found guilty based on nothing more than that they don't know what they're involved in. No idea what's going on, sort of thing. And I can't remember. I wish I could bring the case up. Give me a sec. I'll have a look for it. But that's basically what they're saying. That you can't possibly defend yourself. You've got absolutely no idea how the legal system operates. Therefore, you can be found guilty regardless, and it's all your fault, sort of thing. But then the next minute they'll say, "Oh, this applies to you," and I think it's fair to do. You know, 1 minute they're claiming you can't possibly be capable of defending yourself if you're not a lawyer. But then at the same time, they'll say, "Oh, this applies to you nonetheless."
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds fair to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, when it applies to you, when the lawyer doesn't give you a chance and doesn't say really anything that you want them to say.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, I'll see if I can bring this up. I'll read it out to you. Script. There we go. Right, here we go. Case. Even the intelligent and educated layman has small and sometimes no skill in the science of law. That's the laughable bit. They actually call it a science.
Yeah.
Science is objective. Law's about as subjective as you can get. So, if charged with a crime, he is incapable, generally, of determining for himself whether the indictment is good or bad. He is unfamiliar with the rules of evidence, left without the aid of counsel. He may be put on hearing without a proper charge and convicted upon incompetent evidence or evidence irrelevant to the issue or otherwise inadmissible. He lacks the skill and knowledge to adequately prepare his defence, even though he have a perfect one. It requires the guidance of counsel at every step in the proceeding against him. Without it, though he not be guilty, he faces the danger of conviction because he does not know how to establish his innocence. That was Gideon versus Wainwright. I think there was a film made of it that had, is it Peter Fonda? It was called Gideon's Trumpet. It was a film made years ago. I think you can find it on YouTube. Look it up on YouTube and find it. And this was a case where they changed the opinion, the law in America, where they gave people free attorneys. You know, if you didn't have an attorney, the state would appoint one to give you the best chance in court. But the interesting thing about what they're saying there is because it says he's in danger of conviction because he does not know how to establish his innocence.
Yeah.
Thought he was meant to be presumed innocent. You don't have to establish it.
Yeah.
It's not up to you to prove you're innocent. It's up to them. You have to be presumed innocent. Yeah. So that in itself is contradictory. It's a non sequitur, isn't it?
Mm.
See, so it's little things like that we pick up on the more you start to learn this stuff and understand what it's really all about. And I've given you over a copy of Mark's audio book, so that's going to give you the best possible start in all this. As soon as you can get round to listening to that.
In the morning it will be.
Yeah, it's about 5.5 hours long. It's quite a long audio.
Right.
But if you do sort of an hour a day or a few hours a day, break, it'll start to sink in. And it is an absolute mind blower. It's the only law course you'd ever have to do for the rest of your life.
Brilliant.
And you wouldn't have to get involved in any of this other stuff with the trust law stuff and the free man concepts and all that. You just wouldn't need that.
Yeah, the thing is, you find yourself going across all of those just to find the right path in the end, really.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was. That's what I got sucked into to begin with. I mean, I got into this back in 2005. Yeah, it was about 2005, 2004, I think. And yeah, bloody, I've been in this longer than I think.
Ever.
8, 9 years, Christ. Yeah, and I'm only just, it's only been the last few years I've actually got in amongst stuff more than anything. But yeah, I mean, same thing with me. I mean, when Rob Menard hit the scene and John Harris and all that, yeah, I was all over it. I thought it was fantastic, what I was learning. I thought finally it's all making sense, sort of thing. But the truth is, it was what I realise now is that you're not learning anything. You're getting sucked in by it, the emotion of it all. People are getting wrapped up and reacting emotionally to this knowledge and information. They're not thinking logically and critically about it.
Yeah.
Because when you start hearing people like Rob Menard saying, yes, you have remedy and you can go into the court and they need your consent and all this stuff, that's playing on your emotions. That's making you feel like you've got some power, you've got some say in this. Or if you've got remedy, you've got some hope. And this is why they come out of things like solution. We want solutions and we've got solutions for you and all that. All of that plays on your emotions. It doesn't. It's not kicking. It's not letting that logical part of your brain kick in.
Yeah, we have to be clever sheep in a wolf's court.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Look, the law sounds like organised crime to me.
Yeah,
like banking.
That's exactly how we. Yeah, that's exactly how we describe government itself. Government is nothing more than organised coercion and violence. That's it.
Yeah, especially when 78% of the MPs are millionaires.
Yeah, and that, yeah. They start, dictating to us how us minions are going to live, while they're, raking it in.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's, government is nothing more than a group of men and women providing a service at the barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
That's what you're actually dealing with. It's just men and women at the end of the day. Same as a cult, you're dealing with people. Yeah. You're not dealing with this whole thing called the judiciary and all that. They're all labels, they're all titles and things to distract you from what you're factually really dealing with. You're just dealing with people.
Yeah.
People bringing these claims against you. It's people giving these opinions. It's not coming from anywhere else. They describe law a lot of the time as if it's this separate entity from us. Like it's a burning. I've said this before. Like it's a burning bush on a mountain with what's his name's voice booming out of you. Charlton Heston's voice booming out of you, going, "You will do this. You won't do that." That isn't it. That isn't how it works. But that's how people describe it.
It's do as you're told.
Yeah. That's right. So it's and that's exactly what you're actually being accused of. You're being accused of disobedience. Whereas the cause of action is meant to establish and justify what they're doing as logical and rational. Because if you're held to the will and opinion of somebody else, and this is based on more than you disobeying them, that's been defined as slavery.
Yeah.
And I'll read a case out to you quickly. I'll just dig this out. I'll read a case out to you.
But if we've got no rights, does it? And they think we're slaves, aren't we? Just slaves.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
But the worst type of slave is the slave that thinks he's free.
Yeah.
So once you've woken up to that, you kind of stop becoming a slave in that respect because you realise what's really going on, what you're really involved in.
Yeah.
But I'll read this case out to you. The American Supreme Court has made this ruling, and it's from 1886. It's got for the very idea that a man may be compelled to hold his life or the means of living, or any material right essential to the enjoyment of life, at the mere will of another, seems intolerable in any country where freedom prevails as being the essence of slavery itself. Yik Woe versus Hopkins, U.S. Supreme Court, 1886. So to be held to the will and opinion of another is slavery in their eyes.
Yeah.
And yet, when you're in court and you're in front of these people, That's exactly what they're doing. They're saying you dared disobey us. That's what you're really being accused of.
That's right.
Yeah. But so now do you understand why the public relations that they create says, well, there has to be a valid cause of action, because they can't behave like that, or they can't be seen to be behaving like that. This is why they create all this nonsense about saying there has to be a valid cause of action to be able to justify it. There has to be a victim. We're doing this for protection.
Protectors.
They could come up with this in court and say, we do this for the protection of society, really. We've got case law to show this complete nonsense.
Yeah.
If you look at my videos from the KFM, which I gave you links to, there's case law that I've put on showing that the police have got absolutely no duty to protect anybody. And that's every court all over the world for the last few hundred years have said that. I've even seen a case from Japan saying the same thing. And the I read that was Japanese. Well, I can read Japanese. It was in English, mine. But it said that the state's got an obligation to stop companies racially against the body. There was a case where I believe it was some Indian bloke walked into a Japanese shop in Tokyo. So I said, "You're not Indian, or sorry, you're Japanese. You're race." Sumo, racial abuse and hatred, and the state came back with, "We've got no duty to stop any of that going on." You know, our job, we couldn't care, sort of thing. It's not our job to protect you from that sort of thing. That's what they came back with.
Yeah.
So,
I think being gobsmacked by news every day.
Sorry?
Once you start being enlightened, it just all comes in so quickly.
Yeah. See, pennies don't stop dropping once you wake up to this. That's the thing.
No, it doesn't stop. It's like a neck timer. Once you've turned it over, it's going to tell you. It's going to keep going until you're full up.
Yeah, so like I say, so that's the thing. This is how they try to justify themselves. They claim that the government is there to protect you. The government is there to provide services and all this to us. You know, they're our servants, we're not theirs, sort of thing. Whereas when you actually go to the heart of it and you actually start looking up the case law and what they're actually saying in the courts, they're saying a complete opposite. There's actually one particular case from the States where it states that the government or the state has got absolutely no duty to provide any service to anyone, you know, to the public, or you know, to the public. And as she says, there's not even a duty to provide law and order. Don't have to provide us with a police force if they don't want to.
No.
They don't have to provide it, and that goes.
Well, then again, they wouldn't be able to follow through with all their statutes and tax people if they didn't have a police force.
Yes, but the point is obviously, you know, the police aren't there to protect you.
No.
That's the point. Where, you know, that they're making. And
so if they're not there to protect
us, the ambulance service, the fire brigade, the lot. Even in this country, it's cases from this country where they've said exactly the same thing. If the fire service don't get off their asses and come and you know, put your fire out, if your house is going up in flames, you can't sue them for it if they can't be bothered to turn up. Same with the ambulance service. If you call the ambulance service and you know you call them for an emergency and they don't bother to show up, you can't sue them for it. There's nothing you can do about it. They don't have to come and provide it, do anything. They don't have to. And people get shocked at that. They've got to. They're the police. They're the army and all that. No, they've not got to lift a finger.
Well, we do realise that they turn up very often to places when people do call them out, obviously, and then people don't get anywhere with it. So, you know, they obviously got.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, put down the ambulance. So, they obviously don't know this. People who are actually involved in this, actually work in a service, don't know this. They don't know this is what the government says. Or at least they're not aware of it, and you know they're honestly doing a job, believing they're helping people, and you're not going to get that attitude out of them that, oh yeah, sod you, you know, we couldn't care less if you need us on, you know, we're just going to put the phone down and put the feet up. They obviously don't act like that in practice, but, you know, it's but probably more so with the police you get that attitude, and that's been proven, you know, more than once.
But it's not the people themselves that behave like that. Like you say, it's just written on a piece of paper that says everybody's got to be. They don't have to behave like that. As a people, we're quite caring, so we try and care for people anyway, aren't we?
That's blissfully unaware.
Blissfully unaware in that way, because you don't realise that behind all this is somebody saying, "Well, we don't give a."
we don't give two hoots about it, and we don't have to. There's no duty to. So, you know, when you bring this up to people and they say, "Well, why are we paying taxes then if they haven't got to provide anything?" So exactly, that's not the point. Because the thing is with government, I mean, I don't know if this has been pointed out here, if I mentioned it earlier, but the fact is, government, the support of government is compulsory. You pay for them whether you want them there or not.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean valid? Can they claim that they're legitimate based on that?
Well, they haven't been elected into power, have they?
No, that's right. And that's it. That's the fundamental flaw in government. Yeah. And in that
they feel like they've been elected in power.
Yeah, but I mean that trickles down to all of them. All the services, all the government departments that then come about that claim that they provide us with services, because it's not an issue whether you want those services or not. You're forced to support them.
Yeah.
And how can that
common sense? Common sense tells us we're quite happy to support the ambulance, the fire brigade, the police, because anybody who's committing crime needs to be dealt with. But
absolutely,
you don't realise the underlying what's the word? Nastiness of it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, these services are obviously needed.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to argue, you know, well, that's it. Then we've got to get rid of police and all that. If that's the case, we obviously need them, but it's the manner in which it's provided, and you're forced to pay for it whether you want it or not. And that's the way. That's not the way to provide any service. You know, no service is valid when you're forced to pay for it under threat of a gun, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing is with like I was saying, with government, you're forced to support it. So that totally invalidates what they claim they're about. They claim that they're there to serve us, and we're sort of their masters. They're the servants, and we're the master. You know, is supposedly an agent-principal relationship. Obviously, that's not the case if you're forced to support them.
Well, they're the only ones with a job.
That's right. So how can somebody, and this is the thing with government, you know that term, you've probably heard this with Freeman stuff, the consent of the governed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it statutes got force of law over the consent of the governed and all that sort of thing? Think about it, consent of the governed. What's the word government mean, or govern mean?
Being ruled over, I suppose.
That means control, doesn't it? Literally means, government literally means, from the Latin terms, to control the mind. That's what government actually means. But let's call it control, yeah? So, the consent of the controlled. Think about it. Why would they give your consent if you're already under their control?
Yeah, exactly.
It's an oxymoron, isn't it? It doesn't follow.
Yeah.
And yet, a lot of these freemen and other people jump on this stuff, giving it, you go, they need our consent. It says consent of the governed. Yeah, change that word governed and controlled, and then see how much sense it makes.
It's slavery,
They need our consent, the consent of the controlled. I'm the control. I've got power.
And, definitely oxymoron, you're dead on.
Yeah, and that's all out now. So all this stuff about this is all done under consent and this is all contracts is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, you don't contract with them. They stick a gun in your face, metaphorically speaking or literally, depending what part of the world you're in, and say you're going to comply with us whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's got nothing to do with the contract. It's got nothing to do. They don't ask for your consent to represent you, do they? You pay for them whether you want them or not.
Yeah.
That totally flaws the system. That the means don't justify the end. What they claim they're actually about. So there you go.
It's outrageous.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to come in on. Let me just check my Skype a minute. It's gone bonkers again, Christ. Sorry, I can't bring everybody. I'll come back to them in a bit. My Skype has gone absolutely bonkers. I've got Dan wanting to come in, I think. I was talking about the mafia. Saying to me, prohibition. He was saying it was mainly the gangs and the mafia. The mafia were behind a lot of this stuff, prohibition and all of it. That's exactly what government is itself anyway. It's a mafia organisation. So, and what was that course you mentioned on the show then? Course? Did I mention a course? Oh, Trivium stuff. Yeah, the Trivium stuff. Yeah, if you look on my website, mostfolks.uk.co.nr, there's a page on there I've dedicated to the Trivium, the classical education. And that's well worth looking into for both. But yeah, something I don't know if you two have to knock off now. I don't want to keep you too late. It's
it's nearly past my bedtime, then. It's nearly past my bedtime.
Is it? Oh, okay, mate. Well, I'm sorry to get to long as I have.
It is 60. Oh, that's okay. We've learnt loads. Thank you.
Yeah, we've learnt loads. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad I could help. And like I say, we get together a day during the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get do some court role play. Bring some extra people in. There's other people who work on this with me as well. So if I can't always be there, or if I can't remember stuff, they'll be there. They'll bail me out, no doubt. And like I say, we'll get together. We'll do some court raids. It'll be people from all over the world as well. We have people from Canada, Australia. We even had a fella out in Israel, believe it or not, use these techniques, and I think it was last week, had a traffic ticket kicked out using exactly this line of questioning that was in Israel. To show you this sort of stuff applies worldwide. It's not an issue of it applies to our cults. It's this is all over the planet. It makes no difference what cult you're in. The facts same regardless. You know, the truth doesn't contradict, so it doesn't matter whereabouts in the world you are. And
well, thank you for opening our minds.
That's good. I mean, and like I say, you're off to the best start. Getting into Mark's work, and have a listen to that book.
Yeah, we'll do.
The audio book and that, and I'll get some other material over to you later. And we'll get together every day. I mean, I'll be free every day this week, so we get together as much as possible. And we'll start doing some court role play. We'll start working our way through this. So you can get it in your head a lot more clearly what you're going to do. But you sound like you get it already. So I don't think I'm going to have too hard a job. You know, helping you learn this stuff. You know, you're pretty much there anyway. So that's going to be good. And at least you haven't embraced a lot of other dogmatic ways of doing this stuff. You know, would have just got you into trouble. You know.
No, we do believe in what's right and fair, but at the end of the day, we just don't do anything wrong.
Well, you haven't. That's the point. Yeah.
Exactly.
And look at it this way: right and wrong are complementary terms, aren't they?
Yeah.
So there you go. So if they're accusing you of committing a wrong, well, then there has to be a right involved somewhere. Yeah. So whose right to be violated? Nobody's.
Yeah.
And if they claim they did, well, then bring it on, put the facts on the table, prove it. Proof factually a right exists.
Yeah.
Then they can't do that. And we were talking about rights earlier, regarding proving what they really are.
Yeah.
I think George Carlin said...
But we have none.
Sorry?
That we have no rights.
No, that's right. We don't have any rights. And it's terrible.
We are alive. We are alive. We have got liberty, and we have got a computer.
Yeah, that's it. You got life, liberty, and property. I've got to explain it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can prove
But
that.
we haven't got any rights to them.
Rights. Sorry.
We haven't got any rights to them.
That's right. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much.
That's right, mate. Well, I'm glad I've been able to help, and good you got in touch with me. And like I say, we'll be in touch every day this week. So get back to me tomorrow when you're free.
Okay then.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
And
Bye
Bye.
Okay, mate. All right. Take care. Catch you later.
bye. Bye.
Right. Well, hope you've all enjoyed that, and hope people have learnt a bit from it. We had quite a lengthy chat beforehand, before coming on air with Liz and Ian, and a lot of this stuff I'd already explained to them. It was information they'd never really come across before, because I was wrapped up in some of the other stuff, or not wrapped up in it, but they'd come across more of the Freeman stuff before this, and so I wish you could have heard that. And if with their permission, I might like to play extracts of it on the show, or I'll make a podcast of it later that people can actually download. With their permission, of course, and you can tell they, as I explain it to them, they, start to understand what it's really all about, and how this really works. And it was a real eye opener for them, and you could tell that. So, with their permission, I'll ask them tomorrow, and if they're happy for me to do that, I'll release the audio of that conversation we had, and hopefully people can learn a lot from it themselves as well. So. Well, that's it for now. I'm going to go and grab a cup of tea. I'm worn out now myself, and my voice is going. So thanks again, everyone else, for listening in. So this is awakeradio.co.uk, and you're listening to Vin James on the No State Project Revolution show. It's the 3rd of July 2013, and I'll be back again on Sunday with No State Project Reloaded on Sunday from 1 p.m. So that'll be Mark's Saturday show being rebroadcast, with the meta content and commercial free, so you can listen to the entire show, including all the off-air commentary, which is usually gives you quite a lot more information as well. That's well worth listening to. So and then my show usually starts between 3:30 to 4 p.m. If you'd like to call into the show, then you're welcome to do so. So thanks again, everybody, for listening in.